Hello boys and girls, and welcome back to Story Time with me, Miss Lumley. I'm so glad to see how many of you tuned in and watched last night before bed. And I love seeing all your comments and saying hello to you as well. So if you're watching this video, then feel free to say hello. So we started off last night with The Boy in the Dress, chapter 1. And in chapter 1 we were introduced to Dennis, who's our main character. We know that Dennis is a little bit different, but we don't know why just yet. We know that he lives with his dad and his brother, but sadly Mum doesn't live there anymore. She's not around, and Dennis does get quite sad about that, but Dad and brother don't really like to talk about it, so it can be quite hard for Dennis sometimes. So I've got my cup of tea here. I hope you're all snuggled up and ready for bed, and if you've got your own copy, then feel free to read along with us, and if not, don't worry, because that's what I'm here for. So chapter 2, let's find chapter 2. Chapter 2, Fat Dad. Dennis's dad jumped up and down and shouted with joy. Then he pulled Dennis into a tight hug. 2-0, he said. We showed 'em, eh, son? Yes, I know I said that there was no hugging in Dennis's house, but this was different. This was football. In Dennis's house, talking about football was easier than talking about feelings. He, John and Dad all loved football, and together shared the highs and the lows of supporting a local 3rd Division team. But as soon as the match had finished and the referee blew his whistle, it was as if that sound also signalled a return to their strict no-hugging policy. Dennis did miss being hugged. His mum had hugged him all the time. She was so warm and soft. He loved being held by her. Most children can't wait to grow up and get bigger, but Dennis missed being small and being picked up by his mother. It was in her arms that he had felt the most safe. It was a shame Dennis's dad hardly ever hugged him. Fat people are good at hugs. Oh yes, didn't I mention? Dad was fat. Really fat. Dad worked as a long-distance lorry driver, and all that sitting down and driving had taken its toll, only stretching his legs to go to the service station cafe and eat various combinations of eggs, sausage, bacon, beans and chips. And there's Dad, look, eating all that food. That's not really very good for you if you have too much of it. Sometimes after breakfast, Dad would eat 2 packets of crisps. He just got fatter and fatter after Mum left. Dennis had seen a Trisha episode about a man called Barry who was so fat that he couldn't wipe his own bum. The studio audience were told about his daily food intake, and they oohed and ahed with a strange mixture of delight and horror. Then Trisha asked him, Barry, does the fact that you have to get your mum or dad to wipe your underneath not make you want to lose weight? Trisha, I just love my food, was Barry's smirking reply. Trisha put it to Barry that he was comfort eating. Trisha was good with phrases like that. She had, after all, been through a lot of difficult times herself. Barry cried a bit at the end, and as the credits rolled, Trisha smiled sadly and gave him a hug, though it was hard for her to really get her arms around Barry, as he was the size of a small bungalow. Dennis wondered whether his dad was comfort eating too, having one more sausage or slice of bread at breakfast to, in Trisha's words, fill the emptiness inside. But he didn't dare share that thought with his dad. Dad wasn't keen on Dennis watching the show anyway. He said, it's just for girls, that. Dennis dreamed of one day having his own Trisha episode with the title, My Brother's Trumps Smell Well Bad, or My Dad Has a Chocolate Hobnob Problem. Dad ate a whole packet of the admittedly Moorish biscuits every day when he got home from work. So, when Dennis, his dad and John played football, Dad would always go in goal because he was so fat. He liked it because it meant he didn't have to run around that much. The goal was an upturned bucket and an empty beer keg, a remnant from a long-forgotten barbecue they'd once had when Mum was still around. They didn't have barbecues anymore. These days they had battered sausages from the local chippy or bowls of cereal, even when it wasn't breakfast. What Dennis loved most about playing football with his family was that he was the best. Even though his brother was 2 years older, Dennis could run rings around him in the garden, tackling, dribbling and scoring with great skill. And it wasn't like it was easy to get the ball past his dad. Not because Dad was good in goal, it was just that he was so big. And there's a picture, look, of Dennis and John playing footy. And there's Dad in goal, looking rather large. On Sunday mornings, Dennis used to play football for his local club. He dreamed of being a professional footballer, but after his mum and dad had split up, he stopped going. He had always relied on his mum to give him a lift. Dad couldn't take him as he was forever driving up and down the country in his lorry trying to make ends meet. So Dennis's dream floated quietly away. Dennis did play football for his school, though, and was his team's number one shooter? Sorry, reader, I must look this up. Striker. Yes, Dennis was his team's number one striker, scoring over 1 million goals in a year. Excuse me, reader, I don't know much about football. Maybe 1 million is too much. 1,000? 100? 2? Whatever, he scored the most goals. As a result, Dennis was incredibly popular with his teammates, except the captain, Gareth, who picked Dennis up on every little mistake on the pitch. Dennis suspected that Gareth was jealous of him because he was a better footballer. Gareth was one of those boys who are unusually large for their age. In fact, you wouldn't be surprised to find he was really 5 years older than everyone else in his year, but had just been held back on account of being a bit thick. Once, Dennis was off school with a really bad cold on match day. He had just finished watching that day's Trisha, a gripping episode about a woman who discovered that she was having an affair with her own husband. Then he was looking forward to some Heinz tomato soup and his second favourite show, Loose Women, where a panel of angry-looking ladies debated important issues of the day, like diets and leggings. But just as the signature tune was starting, there was a knock at the door. Dennis got up grumpily. It was Darvish, Dennis's best friend at school. "Dennis, we desperately need you to play today," pleaded Darvish. "I'm sorry, Darvish. I'm not feeling very well. I can't stop sneezing and coughing. Achoo!" "See?" replied Dennis. "But it's the quarterfinals today. We've always got knocked out of the quarterfinals. Please. Dennis sneezed again. Achoo! It was such a strong sneeze he thought he was going to turn inside out. "Please," said Darvish hopefully, as he discreetly wiped some stray snot away from him. "Okay, I'll try," coughed Dennis. "Yes!" exclaimed Darvish, as if victory was already theirs. Dennis gulped down a couple of mouthfuls of soup, grabbed his kit and ran out of the house. Darvish's mum was sitting in her little red Ford Fiesta outside with the engine running. She worked on the tills at Sainsbury's, but lived to see her son play football. She was the proudest mum in the world, which always made her son squirm a little. "Thank goodness you have come, Dennis," she said as Dennis clambered onto the back seat. "The teams need you today. It's a very important match. Without doubt the most important match of the season." "Just drive, please, Mum," said Darvish. All right, we're going. Don't talk to your mother like that, Darvish," she shouted, pretending to be angrier than she really was. She put her foot on the accelerator and the car lurched uncertainly off towards the school playing fields. "Oh, you've decided to come, have you?" growled Gareth as they pulled up. Not only was he bigger than everyone else, he had a deeper voice and was disturbingly hairy for a boy of his age. When he showered, he looked like a big monkey. "Sorry, Gareth, I just wasn't feeling very well. I've a pretty bad..." But before Dennis could say cold, he sneezed again, even more violently than before. "Achoo!" "Oh, sorry, Gareth," said Dennis, wiping a small gloop of snot from Gareth's ear with a tissue. "Let's just do this," said Gareth. Feeling weak with illness, Dennis ran onto the school pitch with his team, coughing and sputtering all the way. "Good luck, boys, especially my son Darvish, and of course his friend Dennis. Let's win this for the school," shouted Darvish's mum from the side of the pitch. "My mum is like so embarrassing," rumbled Darvish. "I think it's cool that she comes," said Dennis. "My dad's never seen me play in a match." "Let's see a nice goal from you today, please, Darvish, my son." Maybe she is a little embarrassing," agreed Dennis. That afternoon they were playing St. Kenneth's School for Boys, one of those schools where the pupils felt a little superior just because their parents had to pay for them to go there. They were a very good team though, and within the first 10 minutes they had scored. The pressure was immediately on, and Darvish stole the ball off a boy who looked twice his size and passed it to Dennis. "Lovely tackle, Darvish, my son," shouted Darvish's mum. The thrill of possessing the ball made Dennis forget his cold for a moment, and he weaved his way through the defence and approached the goalkeeper, a luxuriant-haired boy sporting a brand new kit who was probably called Oscar or Tobias or something. All of a sudden they were face to face, and Dennis sneezed again, uncontrollably. "Achoo!" The snot exploded onto the goalie's face, blinding him for a moment, and all Dennis had to do was tap the ball past the line. "Foul!" shouted the goalkeeper, but the referee allowed it. It was foul, but technically it wasn't a foul. "I'm sorry about that," said Dennis. He really hadn't meant to do it. "Don't worry, I have a tissue," exclaimed Darvish's mum. "I always carry a packet with me." She hurtled onto the pitch, hitching up her sari to avoid the mud, and ran up to the goalie. "There you go, posh boy," she said, handing him the tissue. Darvish rolled his eyes at his mother's one-woman pitch invasion. The goalie tearfully wiped Dennis's mucus from his floppy hair. "Personally, I think St. Kenneth's doesn't stand a chance," she added. "Mum!" shouted Darvish. Sorry, play on." 4 goals later, one from Dennis, one from Gareth, and one from Darvish, and one accidental deflection from Darvish's mum, and the game was won. "You are through to the semi-finals, boys. Can't wait," exclaimed Darvish's mum as she drove the boys home, beeping out tunes on the Ford Fiesta's horn in celebration. For her, it was like England winning the World Cup. "Oh, please don't come, Mum. I'm begging you. Not if you're going to do that again." "How dare you, Darvish? You know I wouldn't miss the next game for the world. Oh, you make me so proud." Darvish and Dennis looked at each other and smiled. For a moment, their victory on the pitch made them feel like they owned the universe. Even Dad raised a smile when Dennis told him that his team were through to the semi-finals. But Dad wasn't going to stay happy for long. And that's the end of chapter 2, boys and girls. So I wonder why Dennis's dad is not going to be happy for very long. So tune in tomorrow and we'll continue with chapter 3. Bye, night-night.